Today, we're going to learn how to view northern lights, or Aurora Borealis. If you've ever seen the amazing photos online and wanted to catch them in person, you're in the right place. I'm Evan, and in this video, we'll explore the top 10 tips to optimize your chances of catching the elusive northern lights, even if you don't live in the middle of the Arctic. First, you'll want to keep an eye on solar activity. The northern lights are dependent upon solar flares and coronal mass ejections, or CMEs, and are caused by charged particles from the sun colliding with the Earth's magnetosphere. I personally use spaceweather.com to check for the latest solar news, but you can find resources almost anywhere. One Facebook group called South Dakota Aurora Notifications Group has tens of thousands of members, and people are pretty good about posting as soon as they see something. You can start there, ask questions, and get notified as soon as anyone spots anything, assuming the algorithm is kind to you. The sun obviously has to play ball when it comes to producing auroras, but there are a few other factors to consider that can cause issues closer to the Earth. One of them being the moon. It takes a well above average northern lights display to outshine a full moon, as it washes out the colors in the sky. For planning around this, I usually check timeanddate.com. You can search moonset moonrise in your city, and it will show you the current moon phase, when it rises, sets, etc. If there's a full moon, it takes quite a bit more to get me out the door. And speaking of washed out sky conditions, you'll want to escape the glow of city lights. The darker the sky, the better your chances of seeing the northern lights. You won't see them from within the city or suburbs unless there's an exceptionally strong storm, so plan to head somewhere with no close towns to the north and a clear horizon. DarkSightFinder.com is a good tool for checking the light pollution conditions in your area. For example, since I live in Rapid City, I usually head to the north and east of town. With no large towns to the north, all you really have to worry about are farm lights. One of the last things that can get in the way between you and the aurora is clouds. I use NOAA.gov to check the weather forecast every day because I'm a nerd, but it can give you a basic idea of what the weather situation will be a couple days out. If there's a high chance of rain, there's a pretty low chance you'll have a big enough break in the clouds to see the aurora. If the forecast calls for partly cloudy skies, don't get discouraged. Anything less than 80 to 90% cloud coverage leaves you with a good shot of having a window to see the northern horizon. Sometimes clouds that are present at sunset will disappear overnight, so it's worth checking the skies and the forecast ahead of time. And if you're a big weather nerd like me, you can always look up models like the HRRR cloud cover and simulated satellite to get you an idea of how things will progress overnight. Space weather is far from an exact science, so you have to take some of the associated metrics with a grain of salt. But whether you're deciding to go out or you're already out and waiting, it can be helpful to at least know the basics about the following aurora parameters. I follow the data on spaceweatherlive.com, but there's a number of sites and apps that track them. The first parameter is the KP index. The KP index measures the overall geomagnetic activity. Generally speaking, you'll want a KP of 5 or higher, it goes up to 9, if you want to see auroras from somewhere like South Dakota. Space Weather Live also shows a parameter called the hemispheric power index. This measures the total amount of energy impacting the Earth's magnetosphere. While the KP index only updates every few hours, the hemispheric power index provides more of a real-time graph regarding the strength of the storm. The last important number to watch is the BZ, which measures the north-south direction of the magnetic field. Since that can be a little hard to wrap your head around, just remember that a negative or southward BZ is good. Generally, you want to see at least -10 to -20 for there to be a real shot at seeing the auroras. This metric isn't a guarantee, but generally if I'm out and I see the BZ shooting way back north into the positive, I know I'm probably safe to pack up and head home. We could dig way deeper into the numbers behind geomagnetic storms, and let me know in the comments if that's something you'd be interested in seeing a video on. But if you know the basics, you're already better informed than most. When you do go out, you'll want to choose a spot where you can stay a while and enjoy the display, without getting in anybody's way. People have a tendency to go to the closest available dirt road, which can be problematic if too many people show up at the same spot. Pick somewhere out of the way, like a road that doesn't see much use, and utilize any wide shoulders or pull-offs. You don't want to be parked in the middle of the road when another skywatcher comes along. This might seem obvious, but don't block any driveways or field access roads. I always keep my key fob handy if I'm outside my car, in case I need to flash my hazards for any passing cars. And when you're ready to leave, turn off your brights if you're passing any other skywatchers. It kinda kills the night vision. Patience is really important if you want to check seeing auroras off your list. The northern lights are pretty unpredictable compared to forecasting the weather. The timing of the impact, whether it's daytime or nighttime, the duration, and the magnetic nature of the CME are all factors that are largely a guess until the storm starts. There is no best time to see them, other than when the storm is happening and when it's dark. Most people will go out after sunset and head home by 11 p.m., but there are storms that slowly build and may not explode into vibrant pillars until the early hours of the morning. The best thing you can do is stay out as long as your schedule allows. Plan for a long night, and watch the sky and data to determine if it's worth pulling an all-nighter or calling it early. Contrary to popular belief, the northern lights can occur at any time of the year. Nights are longer in the winter, so technically that does provide a better chance of seeing them. But no matter the season, make sure you dress appropriately. If it's winter, make sure you bring extra layers as well as a winter car safety kit. Now, I usually end up being lazy and sitting in my car most of the time, so make sure your phone is charged and you've got some snacks to eat while you wait. Coats, gloves, warm socks, hats, and hand warmers are all necessities if you plan on standing beside your tripod all night while taking photos. The more comfortable you are, the less likely you are to bail early and miss the show. Speaking of standing beside a tripod all night, make sure you've got the gear to capture the northern lights charged and ready to go. If you've got some photography equipment like a DSLR and a sturdy tripod, brush up on the basics of shooting astro and night photography. If you don't have fancy camera equipment, don't worry. Phones are kind of incredible nowadays. But one thing remains crucial: having a way to stabilize your shot. Even something like a simple clamp or suction mount for your phone can do wonders. Set it to a long exposure, a high ISO, and play with the settings until you start picking up on the colors. I don't know about you, but I get a little creeped out standing in a dark, empty field in the middle of the night. So, bring a friend. If you see the northern lights together, it'll be an incredible experience to remember. And if the night's a bust and you see nothing other than billions of stars, at least you had someone to pass the time with. This ties back to the notion of the more comfortable you are, the less likely you are to bail early idea. Because time can pass pretty slowly when you're out there alone. Plus, it's always good to have a slower friend around when the coyotes start howling. If you're watching this video, you're probably a bit like me, living somewhere where the northern lights aren't necessarily common. And unfortunately, unless we're experiencing a geomagnetic storm of apocalyptic proportions, the aurora probably won't appear as colorful and bright as it is in the images that you see online. Cameras can shoot long exposures, and our eyes can't. Many of the displays that you've seen colorful photos of were likely barely visible to the naked eye. However, that doesn't mean that the northern lights aren't worth seeing. Keep a close eye on that northern horizon. They'll often appear as an eerie glow, almost like a hanging band of fog. And once a substorm happens and you start noticing taller pillars moving around, it's a sight to behold, even if our eyes aren't quite as color sensitive at night as cameras. I could probably make 10 more videos about aurora viewing tips, but this felt like a good list to start with. If you've ever seen or photographed the northern lights yourself and have something to add to this list, I'd love to read your tips in the comments. Nature is full of surprises, so embrace the unknown and try to see and maybe learn something new. If you found any of these tips helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe, and maybe share it with that friend that doesn't know you're planning on dragging them out to see the skies. Until next time, keep an eye on the skies.